go.
Hello, everyone. We are back. Welcome to the Yeast, Release the Beast tournament. First off, we need to apologise because this isn't our normal show. We haven't been doing our weekly shows because we're bad people. But we are here today to do a bit of an overview of what's been going on in the tournament so far, and then we're going to do a bit of a faction breakdown as to how factions have been performing in the tournament so far. Catch up on some matchups, some players, and some lists that are doing well or not doing well. As ever, joining me is Stuart Mccowan. How are you, Stuart?
Hello. I'm doing very well. I'm glad to be back. Sorry for the absence, but I was participating in a very important global seminar, and I couldn't do the show, but here we are now.
Learning some life skills you have for life
Yeah,
in that
exactly. Yeah,
seminar.
yeah.
Exactly. So Stuart, where are we? What tournament is this? What have we been doing for the last 5 weeks?
Well, we're right at the sort of end of things now. So it's a 6 round tournament, and we're about halfway through round 5 now. So since the last show, there's been about 2.5 weeks. So we've really got a good picture of what the finals is going to look like at this point. And also, where certain factions have landed in terms of win rate and stuff like that. So that's the main thing we're going to talk about today. Um, Now, there's definitely been some surprises along the way, and there's been some stuff that hasn't been that surprising. uh, Particularly, I think a lot of people we had our eyes on dragons, right? That was the main thing we had our eyes on, because if we cast
Across
our
in
eyes,
general, I think. Yeah.
yeah, if we cast our eyes on the faction breakdown, of course we had most of the tournament is really between Stormcast, Seraphon, and cities. And
Half
then
of it. Yeah.
cities, a lot of that is just Stormcast in cities. Um, and then even amongst the other order factions, a lot of it has dragons. So, and dragons are a huge part of the tournament. So we've kept our eyes on that, and I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed that they're not doing badly. you know, a little bit part of me just wanted them to just crash and burn, but unfortunately that hasn't happened, as we'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, this is the tournament that we've been in, and just as
Well,
a
you've
kind of overview of the ladder, if you just look
yeah.
at the top 10, um,
How many dragons have we got?
yeah, now it kind of looks like a bit of a usual suspects top 10 in that, like, there's a lot of players here that usually are in the top 10, but I mean, the factions are, generally speaking, I mean, it's like, how many Stormcast are there? One, two, three,
Four.
four in the top 10, is that
And
right?
a cities. I mean, Philip's list sitting at number 10 is pretty much
Yeah, I
Stormcast,
think it has like
right?
1100 points of Stormcast or something.
More than
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so. And then we've got Legion of the First Prince in there. That's not a surprise. We've got a Seraphon in there. It has
Also not a
Croxagores, which is a
surprise.
bit weird, but other than that, it's not a surprise. And
Is it weird though? Is it weird when you do the maths? Are they just better salamanders? That's
okay,
a
we'll,
discussion we can
we'll
have later.
we'll get into that, but and then we got a few outliers, of course. So like Luke Bourne with his KO, which is not a good KO list, but I've talked about that with Luke. It's he's doing well with it anyway, but it's not a good list. So he's 4-1, and we've also got AZ on the Ultimate Timmy Express Big Wild list, which he hasn't lost yet.
Hero's choice
He
at
actually
this
hasn't
moment,
lost yet.
isn't he? Yeah.
He's actually the hero we all need at this point. With his Gobsprak Gordrak Kragnos list. Um, just tremendous. Yeah, nothing but love
And
from
then
me.
rounding it out, the top 10, we've got two Soulbite players.
Yeah, yeah. Which um, I think maybe look casting our eyes back to the start of the tournament. In the headspace we were all in, I don't think we were as positive on Soul Blight as we all are now. I think definitely like maybe after seeing the LVO results over the weekend, they didn't win, but they did very well, and we're seeing them do very well in perhaps a matter where having more wounds is required. and there's a lot of
Yeah, I
flexibility in the way they can build.
think the thing with Soul Blight is that they win in a slightly different way to all the other top tier lists. Like you look at the Stormcast list where it's just about hard alphaing and removing the key threats. You look at Seraphon, which do something similar with a bit of magic control and stuff. Soul Blight are a complete board control army, right? So they're winning in different ways, and I think it's a way to win that's slightly harder to see in terms of when you're looking at a list, because you look at a unit of 20 zombies, a unit of 20 zombies, a unit of 20 skeletons, and that's not killing or doing anything, but it's getting you points, it's getting you battle tactics, and it's winning you the game. So yeah, I think because what we're planning on doing is looking at all of the factions and having a look at some of the top lists that are doing well in the tournament so far. And when we look at the Soul Blight ones, we're going to see that it's a lot of wounds, it's a lot of board control, and that maybe that's not a bad answer to some of the other big bads out there at the moment, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so shall we launch into the faction win rate chart? Okay,
Well,
so this is
yes.
what it looks like. Now, obviously, there are some factions where one person is playing the army, um, like AZ
You want to
playing
just
Big
point
War.
those ones out to everyone so we know
Yeah,
that which
so
ones are the anomalies here?
like Big War, Flesh Eater Courts, I think Fire Slayers and Slanesh, I think all have one player by memory.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
Yes, and I think also Beasts of Chaos. Yeah, I
Yes.
think also
Yes.
Beasts of Chaos.
Tobias. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a little bit outliers now. Just one thing, I did mark a draw as like half a win, if that makes sense. So like if you had 3 wins and 1 draw, then you got 3.5 wins out of 4, and that's how it's got like 87.5 there. I think that's probably the best way to do it. But yeah, this
Yeah.
is what the
Makes
win rates look like. Now, if we kind of cut the 2 outliers out of the top, and I also think Daughters of Cain is. I mean, there's only two
There's two.
players.
Yes.
Yeah,
Just two.
so
Yeah.
and I think they're both 3 and 1, so that's why it looks like that. But then I think from Legion of the First Sprints going down, it makes a bit more sense.
Definitely.
So they've got the highest win rate, which we've seen in other stats, and I definitely think that's probably true. That it's the overall highest win rate army in the game. Um,
So I think the list that we've had at this tournament, I think only one of the four is the big bad list, which is pretty much Be'lakor, Epitome, Demon Prince, and as many pinks as you can cram into a list. The rest of them have each got a little bit of flavour, but still that kind of core to the most extent, and that's popping up what a 67% win rate in this tournament so far. And is that because it's doing stuff really well, or is it because it's one of those denying lists where you can't really play against it, you can't do your thing?
I mean, in the end, it's just nothing that can kill a pink horrors with a 5-up after save. Like it just doesn't even make sense on a game level. So, um, like you even like roll fulminators out against a bunch of horrors, and it just doesn't work out because as soon as they stop being on the charge, they just stop being able to like insta clear stuff. So it's it's a challenge for us to all find an answer to. Um, But yes, they seem to be dominating the meta at the moment, even though they don't have the greatest, player base in this tournament, and they never do. They only have a few players that play them, but I mean, I think they've got, is it 4 players?
Four, yeah.
Yeah, 4 players. So I mean, it's a small part of the pie, but still doing really well. Okay, and then we've got sort of some usual suspects and some surprises. So we've got Stormcast Eternals, which I think you could probably say this is the second highest win rate, with I think it's like 57% or something. Um,
They've got such a high representation at this tournament,
yeah.
right? They're
Now this
almost,
is
I think they're a quarter of the field on their own, pretty
yeah, it's
much,
about
one
80
fifth.
games or something. It's like 76
Yeah,
games. So I mean, this is like a really pretty reliable stat, I would think at this point. Um,
definitely. And
and yeah, upper 50s. So yeah, I mean, good, but not like Omega broken is the situation, I guess. But I mean, we were discussing this before the show as well. They are an army that a lot of new players pick up, and certainly in this tournament there are a lot of new players playing Stormcast, even with some really strong lists, and that that might bring the win rate down a little bit compared to an army like Legion of the First Prince, where most of the people who pick it up are very veteran players looking to play like a really strong list. Because fundamentally speaking, like on a models level, like no one wants to go pick up like 250 pink horrors, or horrors.
It's hard to play with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's hard on a painting level and a collecting level, and then also it's like it's hard to play with on an actual gameplay level in the sense that you're not actually trying to kill anything. You're just kind of like winning on points and denying your opponent. So
Imagine it's hard to sleep at night playing that sort of army as well. Um, but if you went to the Stormcast, I just want to touch on, I think the Stormcast win rate compared to other win rates that you might see from other tournaments or just the AOS in general is that at this tournament we obviously had our list rating and our general rating setup that we did when we first did the tournaments, which decided the round one matchup. So how much do we think that we had Stormcasts with the really good lists and a lot of them being played by 4 and 5 star generals, maybe knocking each other out in the first round or getting the other big nasty lists like Seraphon list? Do we think that that has affected the win rate significantly, a little bit, or not at all? What do you think?
yeah, I mean, I think it's had a pretty big effect. Like, I don't know how big in terms of percentage. Like, I guess it might be like, I don't know, if I had to guess, like 3 or 4%. It's made a difference. Um, like certainly to the factions towards the bottom of the table, like Corn. If that first round didn't exist, they might not have got a win. So, uh, I mean, I think it's had quite a big influence on it. And maybe I think in the last show we might do a win rates from like round 2 to 5 just to see if that's different. Now, obviously, like even round 2 will be influenced by round 1 a little bit, but yeah, I mean this win rate stat here, like you for the Stormcast players in round 1, you were kind of looking at like win rate versus like really cities and Seraphon were the main armies that they were playing against. So yeah,
And this is because what we did is we gave every list a rating out of 5. And if you've been paying attention to the meta at the moment, you'll know that Stormcast book is really, really good. And a lot of those lists were getting 4 to 5 star ratings. Um, the one thing that was interesting with the Stormcast list is that you kind of had a lot of 1 and 2 star generals. So these are generals that are it's their first tournament or have only sort of won 2 out of their 5 games in previous tournament postings. Or you've had your 5 star generals, people that know that these are the hottest lists at the moment, and these are your hardcore tournament players that are looking to win the event. Where you didn't really have as many of your middling players um, running Stormcast lists. Do we think that that has had an effect on the win rate? There being quite a lot of new players playing these lists, and also quite a lot of tournament veterans playing these lists, rather than an equal spread of player skill.
yeah, I mean absolutely, and I think for some of the lower factions as well, there's always that thing of like the only people playing them are the people who like play them all the time. So often, like even the lower faction win rate can sometimes be a little bit inflated, than what they are. Sometimes not. Like I think in the case of like Gits, for example, that's actually not the case. That generally speaking, um, the people who bring them are just the people who like the models. Like there are some people who are veterans of Gits, but they don't tend to play them for a really long time because unlike something like Corn, there's not actually a lot of depth in
Depth of
Gits.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mechanics, so it does get a bit stale sometimes. Yeah, okay. But let's just quickly have a look at the top Stormcasters in the tournament so far, which is Antu's list. Um, yeah. Now
So this
this
is
is yeah.
a list
It's
I think we gave a 4.5 or 5, I can't quite remember. And obviously Antu is a 5 star general, so he's won tournaments before and is regularly posting in the podiums for a lot of our events. And he's always looking to bring the hottest stuff. And what's he got in his list this time?
I mean, basically, he's gone for the dragons with long strikes, but the key inclusion here, I think, is Gardas. The 5-up ward that he puts up really helps. I mean, if you don't win the roll off and you're gonna get alpha, it helps. But also just keeping those raptors healthy. Because there's not that many things in the game that can that can ping them off. Like for huge amounts of damage at that range. Like
The
Comet's Call
range,
or
yeah.
something is only like it's only D3 mortals. So having the 5-up might mean that a raptor lives when it normally wouldn't. And that's quite big, obviously. And yeah,
Damage
also
back.
just the capacity to go second with this list is a bit higher because you can just stand there with Gardas, who doesn't need to like use a command ability to get the 5-up or anything. It's just there, so it's pretty good. Yeah.
And so we've talked about Gardas, we've talked about the Raptors, and then we've got 7 dragons. And I think the way that he's done it with the Nitroconis and then the unit of 6 really, really capitalizes on the Nitroconis's ability for the breath attacks, right?
It's a unit of 4, but yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it's
sorry, unit of 4, beg your pardon.
yeah. He's also taken Arcane Tome and Master of Magic on the Nitroconus, which
Interesting.
yeah, I kind of have. I really don't like that combo of things is on like every model. It's not a wizard, and now it's a wizard, and now it gets to reroll. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is unfortunately a side effect of nerfing Amulet of Destiny, but I think the key thing here is just the capacity to get Mystic Shield up on the Storm Drake Guard, because the difference between a Storm Drake Guard without Mystic Shield and with Mystic Shield is actually pretty big. Um,
Huge.
yeah. Now he's not in Hunters in this army, but if he was, then as soon as you got a Storm Drake Guard unit with a 2-up save that can't be roared, it's actually like really painful for some armies to take down. Like Seraphon just can't do anything to that because they don't. Aside from Salamanders, they don't have any Ren 2 really. So as soon as something's on a 1-up save, there's like almost nothing that they can do to kill it. So it's important having that Mystic Shield up. But yeah, I think we get the general idea of the list. I mean, it's not the highest list in terms of mechanics. It's basically just you can double shoot
Upwards,
with the Storm
forwards.
Drakes and double shoot with the Raptors, and the damage
Yeah.
output is just a bit obscene, and that's kind of just how it
But
works. Yeah.
yeah, probably with the exception of these Legion the First Prince pink list that we were talking about earlier, do we think that double turn of this pretty much tables almost any army in the meta at the moment? Because or it at least significantly cripples it to where the game's over, right?
Oh, definitely. But I don't even think you need the double. Like, I think
Yeah.
this goes first against a lot of armies. They just get rinsed off. Like, it's not that much you can do. Yeah.
So this is Antu in his list. It's disgusting in every sense of the word, right? And
Yeah, and we have to highlight
a
that
lot of the
the
yeah.
match versus Matt Mello, where Matt Mello is
Oh
playing
God.
basically dragons, similar configuration, but more dragons, and then he's got a Celson Prime, and Antu's
Yeah.
got this army, and the story goes that basically they they rolled the setup roll off, and it was like at that point, Antu won the roll off, so he's gonna go first, and yeah, it was pretty much GG at that point. They played it out, but it was just like whoever wins the roll off is just gonna rinse each other off, and yeah, I mean that's just what it is, unfortunately.
Obviously, so we're sort of brushing over. This is a terrible thing for the game. The fact that we're having games, just top table games in a tournament decided on a pre-game roll-off. The fact that there's pretty much nothing most armies can do um, against the damage output that this list can put out, and the fact that it's a list that doesn't really rely on mechanics or, and who won't mind me saying this, a lot of player skill. Yeah, you need to get your positioning right and your target priority needs to be good and everything like that. But once you've got those basic things mastered and you're playing this list, it's not good, is it, Stuart? It's overpowered, isn't it? For
Look,
want of a better
it
word.
is, but I think probably what's happened is that when I don't know with the whole printing cycle of how it works, but I remember when you and I first started playing third, we were just like nothing happens in the first two turns, like at all. Like
Yeah.
it was literally like you just do ferocious advance and stand there for the first two turns, and that was totally bizarre. And like I really didn't like that about the game. But now we seem to be in this perverse position where like the
Game's over
game
by
is
turn
just
two.
the
Yeah.
game's just over. Like before you even start counting points. Even in the games that I've been playing, not against Stormcast, it's sort of just ended up that we just table each other, or the game's just over by like turn three or four. Like I don't really play a turn five. Um, and I know like I know Luke Morton was saying that with his KO that he's played like 9 turns this tournament or something because it's just been like
All games. Yeah.
yeah, it's just been like either one person gets tabled or or the other person tables them. Yeah, I don't know if that's the best experience ever. But I think we were talking about Soul Blight before. We're probably going to see them coming back in to handle this kind of thing, and Legion of the First Prince as well. And I think in those matchups, there's a bit more to see in terms of game length. Um,
Oh, shall we have a look at where Soulblight Gravelords are doing on the win rate, and shall we have a look at some of the lists that have been brought to this? 'Cause they're actually sitting just underneath Stormcast in terms of
yeah.
win rate, aren't they?
So I think it's still 57%, but just with some different decimal points. Now, we already know one of the finalists at this point, so we're halfway through round five. And Nikita was playing against another Soulblight list, which had more heroes and less bodies. And I think it was quite a good matchup for him. And yeah, this is what his list is. It's pretty
This is what
horrific.
I was saying. Yeah, when this is a list when you look at it, like there's some Graveguard and Graveguard can do some punch, but you look at this list and you're used to looking at lists and you think like you need two or three big threats, a couple of support pieces, a couple of screens, and maybe a fast unit to hold a backfield objective or nip around the edge or something like that. This throws that completely out the window, and it is just bricks of dudes, right, that are gonna walk up the middle or pop out of grave sites and bully you off objectives for the whole game. And it's very, very good at doing that.
Yeah, I think it is 192 wounds, and that doesn't actually sound like a lot. Compared to I remember in the past there used to be like Savage Auric lists that were like 300 wounds or something in AOS 2, but 192 wounds in a Soul Blight army is a lot because you got to consider that all of
Six up
them,
ward,
yeah,
yeah,
all of them have a 6-up ward, and
yeah.
then um, all of them are going to come back pretty much except the Blood Knights, but the rest of them are going to come back. Um,
I mean, skeletons. If you don't wipe that unit of skeletons, and they double pile in with the Necromancers Van Hels, that's a unit of 30 unless you wipe them. It's always going to end up the turn as a unit of 30 again, which is just crazy.
Yeah, and the threat here to do damage isn't actually that low. Like the 20 Graveguard, if they get double pile in from the Necromancer,
Yeah.
yeah, it can do huge damage, especially if Manfred can give them the +1 attack before he goes. So yeah, there are a lot of options here, and yeah, it's just a
Now
load of bodies. Yeah.
it's pretty straightforward and simple in what it wants to do. Um, but can we for a minute compare this in terms of skill and the way that you need to pilot this army compared to something maybe like Antu's Stormcast? So where do we think Nikita in particular is doing well? What sort of player, what sort of things do you need to do to pilot this list to victory?
It's one of those lists that I think in some games will require no thought whatsoever. Like this, you just play against if you play this against KO, I really don't think there's any answer from the KO in terms of being able to get through all of this in enough time to stay up on scoring. I think you can probably just stand there and win, especially if you lower drops. But against in the harder matchups, I think it's going to require a bit more thinking. Particularly in terms of how you order these units, it's like, well, who stands behind what and who goes in front of what. Um, like there are some matchups where you're going to use the Blood Knights as a screen, and there are some matchups where you're going to want to use them as more of. I mean, they're not really a hammer, but something to clear some crap at the right moment. And yeah, there are some matchups where you're going to want to like castle up around the Graveguard, and get the absolute best charge with them. And then there's going to be some matchups where you don't need to do that, and the best thing they can do is just deep strike with Legion of Night and stand on an objective the whole game. So yeah, I think it's more knowing what your opponent's army does with this army than necessarily knowing what it does, because there aren't like a huge amount of mechanics in here. It's more just there are some sort of different unit roles in here, and learning how to apply them depending on the opponent, I think, is where the skill comes in.
I think there are mechanics, but it's kind of those things where once you know what you can do with a 6-inch pylon on the zombies, once you know what you can do with having a unit pop back up on a 5-up, then yeah, they're simple mechanics to get around. But there are a lot of different things that this army can do. So you said that Nikita's going to be worrying about what your army's doing. You as an opponent playing into this list still have to pay attention to Nikita's list, because you've got to worry about 30 skeletons coming up in your backfield, or if you move off the objectives, is something going to pop up back up if you kill those 10 direwolves? Are they going to pop back up on the back objective? And you know, is Manfred gonna roar me if I put my monster in this position and get a free roar? So I think it's a bit of a list that's trying to like overload the board, overload the player with a lot of stuff basically. And Nikita's been doing really well with it. He went 5-1 at our last tournament. He beat me in round 6 and denied me my podium. So Nikita's been playing these sort of lists for a long time now, and he's doing really well with him. So one of our finalists, and I'm glad this is here rather than just Stormcast and Seraphon.
I have to say as well, round 6 is Feral Foray, so I mean that's a great scenario for Soulbreak
Oh
Grave
yeah,
Lords.
definitely.
I know on LVO on the weekend we saw them lose the Feral Foray, but I think it's the best battle plan, because the 5-up is just constantly threatening an absolute disaster for your opponent. Um,
Yeah.
like taking objectives and stuff. So
And not a lot of lists can leave 3 units on 3 objectives not doing anything, right?
no, so if they can just not get completely blasted off, which I don't think Nikita will with this list, because it's got more bodies than the LVO's guys did, because he doesn't have a
And
Gargant.
bodies that can hide as well. Bodies that can be underground for a turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think there's a bit more to this list. Okay. So next up we have a bit of a
Ooh,
surprise.
yeah.
Yeah, which is
I
Cruel
think
Boys.
there's 3 or 4 Cool Boys players, right, at this tournament.
Yeah, now I think yeah, I mean 3-1 is the best here. So we don't have a 4-0 here. But yeah, I played Cruel Boys round 4, and it was interesting. Now looking at
Just
the list that's done the
similar, aren't
best,
they?
yeah, looking at
Yeah.
the list that's done the best, I think this makes a bit more sense to me. Uh, see, so Hobgrots are a very interesting unit, Luke, in that like they're sort of good value, but then it's interesting. Like, because the only thing that they do is delay your opponent from killing the Bolt Boys. Like, if they're a combat army, right? It's the only thing they do. Like, they will not win the chaff war ever, because they're like
Yeah.
bravery 4 and don't do any damage at all. So really, they
Even with
just
their
delay.
little, yeah, even with
Whereas
their
the Gut
grenades.
Rippers like are expensive and are definitely overpriced, but at least they're gonna kill something. You know what I mean?
Not
Like,
only are they protecting your Bolt Boys, they're maybe killing an opponent's screen, or maybe capping an objective off something else if it gets the full bodies of 10 and wipes the other unit of 10 off the objective. So you're paying 100 extra points to maybe just do a little bit, right?
well, it's like if your 10 Gut Rippers win versus your opponent's 100-point unit of chaff, then they're worth 180 points, because the Hobgrots will lose and do nothing in return. So that's the problem. Um, I remember when they came out, people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna run 6 units of Hobgrots as my screens," and I was like, "Well," and me having played Gits for a while, I was like, "Well, shooters are awful, and shooters are way better than Hobgrots." So
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't think it was going to work out. But this list, I think, yeah, the Gut Rippers are the main inclusion that makes a difference, I think. And also,
One's often got the bridge, right?
yes, he's also a 1-drop. again, huge difference because if you're two drop versus other shooting armies, you just get taken off, unfortunately. And I think the bridge also makes a huge difference, because the bolt boys really have like the range is just not quite long enough. It's basically
27.
27, and if you
Mm.
just stand at 27.1, they sort of
The
can't
army
do
does
anything.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, they sort of can't because you kind of don't want to move forward, uh, and do nothing for a turn. So it's always that thing where it's like you kind of can play games with the Cruel Boys player's mind if you just just put a unit in range of the Bolt Boys, and then put your key unit out of range, and it's like, do you want to shoot the crap unit and stand still, or do you want to move to be in range of the actual good unit? And it's actually like really annoying that you have to play around that because any other army, right? So if someone does that to you, you just move them forward and then shoot the crap unit, right? So then next turn you're going to be in range of the good unit. But with Cruel Boys, it's like, okay, I have to shoot the terrible unit, and then now I'm not going to be in range for the good unit if my opponent gives me the double or something, right? Which is what happened in my game in round 4. It's like, okay, I stood still and shot the spiders, and I'm out of range of Kragnos, and then my opponent gave me the turn, and I'm still out of range of Kragnos. Like, it's tricky. It's one of those armies where there are some decisions you have to make that you don't in other armies.
That bridge does give him that out, right? And I
Yes,
also
bridge
like
gives you
it
the
where,
out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it also gives him the opportunity just to simply trade 9 Bolt Boys, which is only 360 points for another unit of a similar size, or even trade up. Maybe this that 9-man Bolt Boy unit can easily kill like a 450-point monster or something like that if you just bridge it forward and roll those sixes. So he always has an option just to take a key piece out if he needs to, and obviously that it might get wiped off the board in the turn after than that, but not the end of the world. So I like the bridge in this list. Um,
yep.
falls down to anything like Stormcast though, right? In terms of Vanguard Raptors, 'cause they just outrange and kill the bot boys. So
But again, at least the bridge gives you something because you can actually, and
backboard
also
and then
being one
maybe
drop gives you
yeah,
something because you can super sneaky and just, because you actually, you have to do that before you decide the turn. But if you've won the roll off versus the one drop, then you're gonna decide. So you just, you can always just super sneaky, put your shit way up front, and just roll and try and kill the Vanguard Raptors turn 1. And I still think you probably lose the game even if you kill them. at least you at least you have a chance. It's he's put some tricks in here that I think are required. So I think it's a great list. Yep.
and this is Demi Lich, and he's been absolutely stunning these guys since they've come out, and he's been tweaking his list and all of that, and so he's doing well. And to be honest with you, this is kind of where I expected Cool Boys to be. Is not maybe not quite high up. I think they're in the top 3 of the quote unquote real win rates that we have. But I think 3-1 out of 4 games for some of the players it was to be expected. I would put this as potential 4-2 list is where I reckon this might end up. Would you disagree?
Yeah. It's actually it's a bit difficult to
A lot
play
of the
against.
players disagree with me. Yeah,
Like a lot of people think it's awful, and a
yeah,
lot of people think it's like
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
like really good and like broken, and like
Well, it's a bit of an MPE, right? Doing 30
it
mortal wounds at
it
range.
it kind of is kind of both at the same time. It's sort of bizarre in that way, and that like the Bolt Boys, it's literally like they're gonna kill you or you're gonna kill them, and like in a lot of games, that's gonna be the decider. Now I think less so in this list because he's got the Gut Rippers. Like so, even if you kill the Bolt Boys, you're just not left. If you're just left with Hobgrots, it's just that's not going to happen, is it? But at least with the Gut Rippers, there's some other threat. It's sort of a low level threat, but at least there's something else going on here once the Bot Boys get taken
Putting
down.
the buffs onto the Gut Rippers, and the Snatcher boss is certainly no slouch with all of his poison attacks coming out as well. So
Oh no, he
he's
actually does mega damage. Like people,
yeah.
I underestimated him like twice, but he does. Yeah, I mean, he one shot a spider when he was on his bottom bracket. So like just you know,
That's not hard, Stuart. I don't know what you're bragging about there. It's a
no,
spider.
14 wounds off a spider when you're in bottom bracket is pretty impressive with like no buffs.
True.
It's pretty
Very
good.
true. Cool. So let's take a look at that win rate graph again, Stuart. What else has been going on at the tournament so far?
Well, we have ogre more tribes, um, which I feel like they're an army that always overperforms. Um, you know,
Then they should.
over
Yeah.
yeah over what I actually think about them. Yeah. Now Soulblind, who I think is in the chat, has been playing the Ducker Underguts version. Um,
This is yeah.
yeah, and
The
I'm gonna dob in
Belshazzar and
Orkman
Iron
because he
Blasters.
messaged me the other day. He's like, "This list is actually not that bad." I'm like, "No, it's not, is it? It's actually pretty good." um, you look at it on paper and it's like, "What the hell does this do?" But yeah, they're one of those armies that always just it has the strength of the Frost Sword and Stonehorn, which under certain game states can really just it just can dominate the whole board kind of. Like if you roll well with it at the right time, it's the damage potential on that thing is like actually insane. Even for his points. So um yeah, I mean it does I think pretty much I think it does more damage than Kragnos if you roll everything. I mean, obviously it's way less reliable, but if you get all the buffs off and you're in like finest hour and +1 to hit, that the damage potential on that thing is huge. Yeah. Other than that, in this list, yeah, with ogres, I find that you always win the crap war. Like you always win, like lead belchers versus, you know, uh, for example,
Belchers
hog rots
versus
or
the
something,
10
or
skinks or
yeah, or something.
hogrots. Yeah.
You just win that. So yeah, that's
They're a
yeah,
lot more
that's
points.
the list. Yeah, they are a lot more points, but that's generally how ogres work. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So ogres. No, a nice surprise and well done to Stormborn for doing well. I know he's got a couple more games to play. It'll be really interesting to see where he lands up. Um, Not very well represented though, ogres in this event. I think what was it, 2 players, 3 players? Where in the past they were one of the most popular, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think they're definitely fallen out of favor a little bit. Yeah.
Is that based purely on power level? You reckon that they've a lot of not that they've been directly nerfed, but just a lot of armies have surpassed them, right?
Yeah, like I think in this tournament they're going to have a rough matchup against Stormcast. They've always been like surprisingly good against Seraphon on the stats. Um
Well, they in a lot of team events that we've played in the past. This was back in AOS 2, but similar sort of matchup. You'd always put your ogres into the Seraphon because if they get the double, they've done it. They've pulled the boogeyman, right? So we're seeing less of that though in AOS 3, aren't we, with the Ogre
yeah.
tribes?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Now, despite my best efforts, Stuart, next up we've got Sylvaneth on the win on the win rates. Um, so I think there's three of us tree bros out there at this tournament, and I'm completely letting the team down. I'm on 1 and 3, but the others aren't doing as bad, Stuart. You know, all
No.
things considered,
Yeah,
considering
now
we are
um yeah, now Luke unfortunately has entered the 1 and 3 zone. Um I think
a good
in
place to be.
yeah, but I would like to say at this point that I was right that he should have put Alariel in this list because the list that's done the best has Alariel in it. so what do you think about Alariel, Luke?
So, um, whenever I've looked at my Sylvaneth list and whenever I've looked at Alariel, it's quite hard to ignore, in my opinion, the fact that she's really overcosted. She's 16 wounds on a 3-up save, which is okay, and no after save. You know, we've said it time and time again, but if you come up against those Raptors, those tall boys, the Sentinels, 740 points just gone in a turn, no ifs or buts, and that loses you the game. And so she can be a bit of a liability, especially in something like a singles event like this, where we are in a meta where we've got a lot of lists that can do such a thing. Um, there is no counterplay. It's not like you can hide her in the woods or deploy her out of threat range because all these things have a threat range of a million or can teleport or whatever. Um, but if she gets going, if she gets to do what she wants to do, and what she wants to do is actually be like I don't think she's played as a sit at the back artillery piece anymore. I think she's a out there doing stuff piece, but a fragile one. She's not super damaging. She's got 4 attacks that are threes and twos, -2 and 5 damage, which is swingy. Can do 20 damage, can do 0. Um, and then she's got a Talon, which is largely irrelevant for most of the game. But the one thing she does have is the utility. So she's not like a super hammer or anything like that, but she's got utility. She's got the utility of the magic spells that she has, spawning those trees, nuking off a key piece with Metamorphosis, um, nuking off another support character with her 6 damage spear, which I think's great utility. You know, twos and twos, two, and if you pass those dice checks, then you've taken out a support character at 24-inch range. You know, she's fast and she brings along a unit with her. So I think she's a difficult piece to play, but if you get everything that you can get out of her, she's really good. But it's hard to get those things out of her, if that makes sense. Would you agree, or do you think that she's should be played differently?
Uh, yeah, I'm not an expert on Sylvaneth, but I do want to talk quickly about I guess his road to 2-1-1. So it is worth noting that the last round was a concede because Smorgan couldn't make it. So um
Yes.
yeah, so I guess he is 1-1-1. But on the matchup, so the game that he won, I believe, was Iron Jaws in round one. Um
Not gonna lie, it's
yeah.
surprising because hard and fast combat armies are not good for Sylvaneth. If they get, this is an army that can't take a double, and it's not necessarily got a great answer to that Maw Crusher or something like that. Maybe the Kernos, but that Maw Crusher can outrange and choose the matchups, and the Kernos can sort of necessarily not be in the picture if the Iron Jaws player plays it right. But so I think he's done well to take down some Iron Jaws there. I'll have to scroll back up through the game summaries and see how it went down. But there are a few cool things in this list. There's a lot of healing in it with the Lariel and the Tree Lord with the Vesperal Gem and the Regrowth. And you know, if you fail to kill something by a couple of wounds and then suddenly it's back up to full, and you do that maybe twice in a game, that can turn the tide, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean that 2d6 heal is still huge. Just on the rest of his games, he played versus AZ in round two and they drew. So, AZ's taken all these powerful armies down, but at the draw versus Sylvaneth, which I think is hilarious. But it actually makes sense when you're running a list that's mega Timmy.
Like
Often
AZ's,
you
yeah.
just can't deal with the screens sometimes. And then in round three, he got Philip Kartev's cities list, and went down to that. And then in round four, yeah, he had the matchup versus the Trogs, which I think would have been close. I don't know how that would have gone, but yeah, unfortunately, his opponent couldn't make that, so he got the
I
win there.
actually think that yeah, I don't know how that would have gone. It would have been good. My first of all, I would probably tip that to the Trogs just because I think they win the grind against a lot of the units that we have in this list. Um, they're in null route, the Kurnoth, so they're not double fighting or exploding sixes or anything like that. They've got the reroll ones from being near a wizard. Um, but they're not at their punchiest that they can be in the list that we see here. The punches in Alariel and those Kurnos, but it's not enough necessarily to chew through a lot of trogs, which is what he would have had to done. And the Dryads are basically useless in that matchup. They get in the way more than anything. Bless them.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can move on. So next up we got Cities of Sigmar, and there's a lot of
There's
these
a big
lists.
pin. There's a big pin in Cities of Sigmar because what is Cities of Sigmar at the moment? I think it's a book that's kind of lost its identity since the Stormcast book came out. Because I think there's one cities list that doesn't have dragons in it. Um,
Yeah, or
and
yeah, I think it's pretty rare that
out
they
of
don't have
9, yeah,
one
and
of the above.
or fulminators, yeah, or fulminators, and it's completely changed the way that you play this army. I mean, having a super powerful war scroll now with access to basically a soup list, and you can pick and choose the buffs or the abilities that you want your fulminators or dragons to have is turned the book upside down. And and a lot of people are settling on living cities so you can deep strike your fulminators, shoot with them, move them, get them in almost guaranteed. And that's what Philip's done here, right?
Yeah, now I would say he's had a little bit of a strange tournament so far. So in round one, he played Pitari on Seraphon, which was like it's almost like the finals backwards that could have been. And
Yeah,
then
literally, yeah.
he played Stormcast with both the big dragons, so Karazai and Krondus. So not the greatest list ever, let's be honest. I mean,
That's great.
wonderful, but they're not the greatest War Scrolls ever. Then he played Mufti on the Sylvaneth, and then he played Iron Jaws last round, got the big 20-0. Um, yeah. So a bit of an up and down tournament in terms of he's sort of played like really strong armies and then armies on the weaker side, but the
Game that he's lost, right, is that first one against Batari.
yeah, yeah,
Is that right?
and the one he lost was against Pitari, and it was like like a 1 point finish. So I mean, it's a small difference, but I mean this is pretty similar to the LVO list that was played on the weekend. The only difference is he doesn't have crossbowmen in there on the battle line. He's taken them out for the Phoenix instead of another small hero. So that's the main difference here.
Yeah.
But
Damn
obviously
Phoenix.
I mean the 1120 points of Stormcast is it is what it is. Now in my Gits army, I do the same thing, so I'm not gonna like at the moment the list I'm running has Kragnos, 15 Ardboys, and a War Chanter in it, which is basically
Yep.
1100 points of non-Gits. So it's yeah,
It
we
almost
take
makes
what
you
we can get.
question whether an army. It makes you question whether an army should be able to do something like that, doesn't it, Stuart? But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I wonder if that's gonna last. Whether we're still gonna be able to, like take an army that's basically entirely allies or coalition or whatever. I don't know, but it is what it is now. Yeah,
I mean, what Philip has done here is taken two, utterly ruthless war scrolls in the Fulminators and the Stormdrakes, and then put them in an allegiance where you've got cheap screens available to you. You've got one of the best debuffing unkillable monster pieces to run alongside and keep up with your dragons and stuff, and then the perfect delivery mechanism for your fulminators, which is that coming in the board edge and then moving after you shoot. So it's pretty plug and play, you know. If you can't deal with, a lot of armies can't deal with one of those big units coming down their throat at round one, let alone two of them. So it's one of those armies that's going to smash, right? And I think this is. I wouldn't be surprised if Philip claws his way back and does a submarine into the 5-1 with something like this.
yeah, he could still come second. Because we're only gonna have three 5-0s. Um,
6-0s.
yeah, no, three 5-0s, and then 1-4-1 is gonna play the second, the third
Oh,
5-0.
I
You
get
know
you.
what I
Yeah,
mean? So like the first round's gonna be
yeah.
5-0 versus 5-0, and then the second table is gonna be 5-0
So
versus
that's a
4-1.
potential.
So what that
So there's
means
still a
is
potential 3 6-0s. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's only going to be a maximum of 2 6-0s, but if the person on the second table loses, then there's going to be just 1 6-0. And if that's a close game, then anyone who went 5-1, who's got like a decent amount of points, has the possibility of coming second after the 6-0. That's basically what it is. Now, um, of course, the top table could be a draw, but even if it's a 5-1-0, they're still going to be um, victorious. So basically, yeah, there is going to be a proper finals. Um, yeah, but I mean, there's also the possibility for the 5-0 that's on table 2 to kind of leapfrog the whoever wins on table 1. Um, but I do doubt that a little bit because probably Nikita's going to be on table 2, and he's got quite a bit less points than some of the other 4-0s. Like Antu and Tavi haven't played, and they have like 2 or 3 less points than him. So
Think we're at that wonderful, wonderful point in the tournament where it's kind of like the eye before the storm, where it's we're nearly there, but we can't quite see the finals. We can't quite see the path to victory for some of these potential winners. There's still too many variables floating around, and I think come the end of this week we're going to have a much clearer picture. So that's gonna be exciting. Um, we've talked about the top tables quite a lot, Stuart. Can we please look at some of my mid-table superheroes? What's going on in the mid-tables?
okay, so should we look at I think we can probably come back to Seraphon. So maybe let's should we have a look at Gits?
Let's have a look at Gits, Stuart. Let's have a look at Gits.
uh, okay,
So I
so
think what again is it three players playing Gits? We've
it's
got two
three it's
Trogs
three players playing Gits, yeah. So
and then
it's
yourselves.
and then myself. Yeah, I mean I won't go on for too long about it, but um
Well, I want to, we've talked about your list. We know what it does. It's funny. It shouldn't be doing what it's doing, and I'm really glad you're here and you're 3-1. You've done really well there with this piece of garbage. I'm really impressed. But Gits, are Gits a mid-tier army? They're not doing so bad on the win rate. We've had some Trog lists doing okay as well, or are they overperforming? Are they trash? You know
I don't think they're
what
as
and
bad.
what
I
and
don't think they're as bad as like at some points they've been like talked about as like the worst army in the game. I don't think they're the worst army in the game. Like I don't think they're top tier or anything, but like 45% win rate. I feel like that's a number that makes sense to me. I know
so
there's
what is
been
it
like
about Gits? What is
well,
it about Gits that makes them stronger than maybe some other people might think they are?
okay, so the main thing that makes Gits good, and I think especially in this tournament, it's just the small wizards. Um, yeah, so they sort you sort of get casting bonuses as part of the allegiance. Like if they're under the moon, they get +1 to cast, and all of them, generally speaking, have like a once per game you can cast an extra spell. So like your
Yeah.
little Madcap Shaman, right? He's 80 points, and he can be a 2 caster at +1, like on the right turn.
Turn of his life, yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't he?
and that's just huge. He's 80 points, and he can do that. So the small wizards are great. Yeah. Other than that,
I think just touching on that, you mentioned to me before the show, the era of the magic doms is dead. So are we seeing a little rise in these small one cast here wizards with
oh yeah,
only,
yeah for sure.
no
Like
pluses to cast and pluses to cast and stuff like that?
as bad as Croak and Aslan is to play against when you're like a small wizard, it's nowhere near as bad as playing against Teclis or
Reckless on a
something,
gash, yeah.
Teclis or Kairos or yeah, Nagash, like any of those ones that just have like, either an auto unbind or just like a million unbinds or +3. Uh, like when you're playing a bunch of small wizards versus Nagash, it just feels like you've wasted points. Like they're never doing anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, but now that that's gone, like Nagash is pretty dead. And, I mean, I don't think Teclis is dead, but he's not in this tournament. And, yeah, I think now that those ones have gone, like these small wizards have a lot more value, and the gits are probably like they probably got like the best value out of all of them. Like I don't think anyone else really has anything like a 2-caster for 80 points. I know he's not a 2-caster every turn, but it's often like just one key turn where you need him to be a 2-caster. Like when your other wizards have died, or there's like 2 spells that you really need to cast. So yeah, I mean the small wizards are good, and as always with Gits, you've got the
Spell
shrine.
as well, don't they? They've got a decent spell law.
Yeah, yeah, and they've still got kind of like an old, I call like an old world teleport spell, where it's like the most lenient thing ever. It's like wholly within 24 that you pick up, and you just put it anywhere. So like you can just stick him in the corner. You can totally screw up your positioning with him, and it's fine because he's going to be in range of like everything anyway. So yeah, it's very lenient. And then yeah, you've got the shrine for some late game longevity that a lot of the other distraction armies don't have. You know, like what's coming back is not the greatest thing ever. Like me bringing back 3 spiders is pretty whatever,
Two
but
trogs popping up. Not going
2
to change the
trogs,
game,
or
but
like it's
it's
something. Like it's something is the
it
point.
keeps your foot on the gas pedal, right? Just that little bit longer than we were seeing before. And also, with that shrine, and I think Sam used it really well in his game one. There's some garrison jank that you can do with that thing now, right?
Yeah, I never use it like that because like the what I do, I just use it as like, here's this thing that blocks line of sight, and I'm sticking my little goblin behind it, and now you can't see him. Like that's the thing. That's the thing as we get. It's like not only do you have tiny wizards, you have like this massive thing that you can just put in front of them, and like unless your opponent has some like janky flying model that's like got really high, that's really high off the ground, they generally can't see the goblins. So they kind of just get to live the whole game, even though they're like 4 wounds with no save, because your opponent can never see them, and they don't really need line of sight to do anything. I mean that, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a
so
few things they do, but you're gonna have line of sight to your own units anyway. So
a
yeah,
little goblin can hide behind a cave, but a tree can't hide in the woods.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
God damn it. God damn it.
exactly, yeah. But I mean, the main
Okay,
combo in
so
my list that's got me here, it's just the Breach and Kragnos that's the main. Like I want
well,
people
it's
to
the
not look
bridge.
at the Spider-Fang side of the list because it's awful. Like, it's really awful. The Skitterstrand of
Well, it's the
Ragnarok, I posted in the Discord, but its total kill count so far is 3 Liberators after 4 rounds of playing. He's literally died or done nothing in every other game. Like, he is awful. Like, even at 180 points, just awful. Yeah, I would never take him ever again, but you gotta
and
do it.
I think the unique part that you've got here is that it's Kragnos and Bridge with a wizard that can teleport as well in the hero phase. So the wizard can teleport forward and then cast one of the bridge behind him and one of the bridge in front of him, right? So you get a really long bridge, you know, and that's how I think you said what 56-inch range on Kragnos with then a 3d6 charge at the other end of it. I think is what
Yeah,
you can pull
yeah.
out your trousers if you need to. Yeah,
Basically,
and that's
if there's a hole anywhere, like he can take advantage of it. That's basically how it
any
works.
hole is a goal for Kragnos.
Okay.
Okay, right. Let's
Right.
move on,
Good.
Stuart. Take me back to this chart. Yeah,
Okay. I think we should talk about Seraphon because we need to talk about Tavi's list. Um,
we do.
and he has not had by any means, a simple path forward, has
Bunny
he?
run.
No.
No, he is not.
So I know he's played Luke Morton. I'm just gonna get the roundup.
He's played Luke Morden. He played
He's
Sven, which has also had another Seraphon. I think it was
oh
60 skinks, Croak and a Slan, and all that sort of stuff, and some salamanders.
Yes. Now I have
And
to talk about, so there's a wonderful interaction that we've learned in the course of this tournament, Luke, which is that
it's my favourite one.
it's the greatest thing
Yes.
ever. So on the Crossagor's War Scroll it says you get +1 to hit while you're wholly within 6 of any skink units. Now the word ally
Any
is not there. So like so
any
Sven's list
skink unit.
So Sven's list was like a skink spam list, right? So
Yep.
Tavi has 2 units to 6 Croxagore, and he just has to be like in combat with their skinks, and he's getting the +1 to hit. I just thought it was hilarious. What a
Yep.
what a great interaction.
Perfect. And you know, Tavi's whole list is built around those 2 units of 6 Croxagores, and the idea behind it is, well, the maths behind it basically is that now that Salamanders have gone up in points, pound for pound, damage for damage, Croxagore are now more points efficient than Salamanders, and especially if you can get them in the right thing with those Moonhammers swinging big, you know, and they're doing what they're doing. They're inside Thunder Lizards. They're -1 damage. They are have got a decent number of attacks. They've got the jaw attacks for free. Um, they've got high damage, and they're 150 points for 3. If you look at any other similar sort of unit like Iron Guts, Kernoth Hunters, Stalkers from OBR, Trogs, Croxagores just make those other units cry. They've got the best War Scroll of those sort of units, and they're the cheapest in points, which is just a Seraphon thing, but
It is, unfortunately.
they've been overlooked for a while because they're inside Seraphon. But as soon as you compare them to anything, the points don't make any sense, right? They're incredible.
Oh, okay. I think we've lost him, but I just also want to say that I think we all participate in a little bit of our model copium. I noticed this when the Nurgle book came out and people were saying Epidemius was bad. Like, people don't want to say that a model with like a terrible model in terms of how it looks is good, because like that means you have to buy it. So like the Croxagore models, by the way, go and 3D print some because there's some great 3D prints out there. But yeah, the GW ones are not the prettiest thing ever. So that's also part of the reason why people don't want to play them, I think, even if they're good. Okay, Luke, are you back? Or maybe it's me, actually. Well, for the YouTube people, the person who's recording the video is always right. So,
Oh, right. Okay, I'll log back in.
okay, just bear with us a second.
Fantastic. Sorry that I went, everyone. I just, your point about Croxagore. Do you think? Because I think I feel it every time. Do you think that there's this one particular Croxagore model in the unit that looks really, really sad? He's got like the sad eyes. They look really,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Go on the website and find that sad Croxagore, everyone. I know you want to. Oh,
Okay,
don't do it. Okay.
here we go. Here's some movie magic. All right. Are you talking about
On the left, look at
this
him.
one?
He's so sad. Yeah, he's so sad.
Yeah, yeah. I reckon he's just sort of looking at the other guy like, oh, I want that weapon. Why have I got this one? Like, I want the cool hammer. Yeah.
He's really sad. Anyway, Tavi's making the sad Croxagore happy, and he's in the he's in the running. He's got some wind behind him, and I reckon he can do it. I believe in him. I think he can do it.
So his path
I
so
hope he
far
does.
has been he's played Cruel Boys, KO, and Stormcast, and what's the other one? Uh, and then
The
the
Seraphon,
Seraphon, right?
mirror.
So and then he's got
That is that is
yeah.
not an easy list.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
That's
that is
not an
not
easy.
easy.
That's not an easy path up. And he's got Antu in round 5, so we're gonna see how that's gonna go. That's probably his hardest one yet. But I believe in the Croxagores and I believe in Tavi. So let's hope he can
Well,
make it through.
Tavi's saving grace in that matchup is that he is Thunder Lizards, and he is half the output of those dragons and reduced the output of those fulminators by a third. So if he gets some lucky priorities and stuff like that, I can see it. Raptors aren't fun for him. Again, only doing 1 damage, but it's the mortals that he's
Yeah, it's the
causing
same
some
from the
headaches.
dragons. It's like the dragon breath, isn't it? That really does it in that matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
target priority is going to be key there, and who can get into what first, as is always the case with the Stormcast list. Right, so Seraphon and Stormcast probably the two biggest threats in the meta at the moment. They've got Seraphon hasn't necessarily got the highest win rate in this tournament so far, but anyone that's played against Seraphon knows that they're top tier stuff. Right next to them, Stuart, is an army that he's gone under the radar, and then people aren't talking about it as much. And that's Idoneth Deepkin, and they're sat there on a above a 50% win rate. So what's been going on with IDK this tournament?
Well, there's been a range of lists, and the one we're going to highlight is quite bizarre,
I love it.
but but at the same time wonderful. Um, so this is Johannes's list. Now he's playing three turtles, Luke. So
And an Idol on the Storm.
yeah.
This is the
Now
Timmy list.
his
Yeah.
path to 3-1 so far. So he played Seraphon in round one and he lost that one. I mean, a bit of a rough matchup. And then he played OBR in round two and he won that one. And
Yep.
then Iron Jaws in round three, he won that one. And I think his last one was he played Tobias on the Dragon Ogres and he won that one. So kind of
Yeah,
a
I mean,
range of
Dragon
stuff
Ogres
there.
can't get past that 2-up save
No,
Leviathan, can they?
no, no.
Not without any rend.
Yes. So this is the list, and it's pretty straightforward. It does what it says on the tin, really. But the one thing here is the Tidecaster Tide Flip can be really useful, and I know in the Dragon Ogres matchup that he played, I remember Tobias said that was just annoying that he flipped the tides, because obviously you get the always strikes first on turn two instead of three. I think that's right. And yeah, I mean this is what the list does now. He's got Alpha Beast packs, so two of the Leviathans can move. Yep, D6.
D6.
It's a
Yep.
bit whatever, but they can do that. And yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about it. Like the Leviathan's still like mostly on like twos, rolling ones or something. So
It's incredibly reliable and efficient damage. It's not like the highest max damage output of a 400 point monster out there, but it's so reliable in it. Not in this list because of his Oh, it is still Futhan and everything, so he's getting the reroll of ones. There's still a weird amount of reroll ones in the IDK book at the moment, right? Um, and everything's on like twos and twos or threes and threes, so it's really reliable. And they go in, they've got those big fin attacks with I think they're damage 5 or damage 4,
yeah,
and
four. Yeah,
they're hard to take down unless you've got mortals and stuff like that. Um, I've always liked the Leviathan as a war scroll. We've seen them in the past used to sort of buff the eels, the defensive eels, and but I think they're a perfectly good just monster war scroll where they can just get in the thick of it and start fighting. So I'm glad to see that Johann's doing well with the turtles because I like them. Stuart, I like the turtles.
yeah. Now he's got a mega rough round five. Against Legion of the First Prince, which I would have thought is an awful matchup. So I wish him
Re-
the best.
Rest in pepperoni, yeah, jeez.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he can pull it out the bag. Okay. All right. So next up we have. Do you want to talk about Sons of Behemoth? I feel like we can probably.
Well, I think in this tournament, I think both of them have actually dropped out of the
Yeah,
tournament now.
yeah. So I think we could probably skip that one. Um, Beasts of Chaos. Yeah.
There's
So
one player,
it's one
yeah,
player who's Tobias. We'll
it's
briefly
Tobias.
talked about it, but you're gonna see this list a lot in TTS in the next I don't know however long. And you're also going to see the same thing with Bulgors, which I think is better. We'll get to that. But this is the list. Now it sort of looks normal when you start here, and then it's like blah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So this is taking advantage of the only,
25-point drop, Luke.
yeah, the
25
only
points.
good thing about the Beast of Chaos list at the moment is that there is some crazily points efficient wounds and stuff in this book. It's not a lot else going for it, but this is points efficient wounds, right? And that's kind of what can you do with MSU wounds for 125 points for a unit of 3?
Yeah,
And
well,
the
they're
answer
great.
is you
Like they're
spread out
actually
the
great.
board. Yeah,
Yeah,
you spread out the board loads. Your board control's great. It's obviously pairs super well with the Beast of Chaos ambush ability. So I've tuned into Tobias's games, and there's literally like the opponent's army in the middle, and they are literally surrounded by Dragon Ogres, like 360-degree ring of these Dragon Ogres around the unit, and that's really good at blocking movement, and controlling objectives and stuff like that. The damage output isn't terrible until you get into like the 3 and 2 up save sort of stuff, and then that's what he's gonna struggle with, right? I think that's, he lost to the turtles on their 2 up save, but there's some play here, right? It's kind of janky way of playing the game, but it's a way to play the game. Do you like this sort of list, Stuart, or do you think it's bad for the game?
The thing is, like, when I look at this sort of list, I'm thinking like, why do they all have to be dragon ogres? Like that's just my qualm with it. It's like, because you could mix dragon ogres and bulgors here, and they kind of have a different unit role, and I think that would work well. Um, like I know the plan is to lock people in with this kind of list, but just with some of the spam lists lately, I've just been thinking like, do they all have to be the same thing? Uh, yeah.
Damn, if it's not the same thing, Stuart.
Anyway, um, look, I still have like a personal bias and love for bulgors, so I just want people to play bulgors because they're great. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but this, this is a weird janky list. Um, and this is being played by Tobias, who's a great player. He's done really well in the past, and he's on the world's teams and stuff like that. And you need to know what you're doing to play a list like this. It's one of those this where you need to block off every inch of the board that you can. You need to come in at the right time in the right places, and it's about trading efficiently at the right times. So you really need to know your Warhammer basics, don't you, to play this sort of list well, because you're not going to be relying on, I can remove this threat with this high damage hammer of mine. If you've got a problem, you've got to play a different sort of game than that, don't you?
yeah, for sure. Um, okay. And next we've got Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Luke. Now, uh, what do you think about where Ossiarch Bone Reapers are at the moment? They did just get some shiny new rules, which are not in play for this tournament.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No, but so with this tournament aside, I think they're just about to start playing AOS 3, and I'm really happy for them.
kind of. Well, they
Yeah.
have they
So
have heroic actions now. They didn't used to have that, but you know,
exactly. So OBR, for those of you that don't know, in a weird way, because of the way that their allegiance is, basically missed out on all the cool stuff that everyone else got in AOS 3. The new command ability, so that's redeploy, that's unleash hell, um, all this sort of stuff. They don't get. They don't get to do any of it, and they also sort of fell by the wayside in that the army that they sort of are, with the bricks of slow moving guys. We're not seeing much of that anymore. There's not so much of just two lines of infantry walking up to each other. It's a high movement game at the moment, with a lot of alpha potential, a lot of outflanking, and a lot of things coming in from the board edge and shooting off screens and getting into the stuff behind it and stuff like that. Um, and OBR really dropped off, didn't they, in AOS 3? But they've still got some cool things. So what's this list trying to do, and what are the good parts of OBR, Stuart?
well, just quickly. So his path so far is his 3 wins have been against Stormcast, like full dragons list, so that's pretty good.
Yep,
And then
very good.
Ironeth Deepkin, and the other one was Ironjaws, and then the 2 losses were against KO and AZ in I think in round 1 maybe. Yeah, so
Oh,
those are the
okay.
2 losses. Um, yeah, but we see with this list, I mean, it's kind of got a mix of stuff. But the main
It's
threat here
really
is
well
really those.
balanced.
Yeah, the main threat is really the 4 Morgas. Um,
Yep,
and I know in
that's the
his game
hammer.
against Luke in in round 5, uh, Luke went first and took off Arcan and the Morgas. And I think they might have just called it there because he doesn't have like any other damage threat other than those, that combo. So yeah,
Harvester's okay, but it's not going to do the job it needs to do.
no, yeah. The problem with the Mortec now is they used to be able to do
They used to do so much damage.
yeah, because they used to be able to do
Back in
multiple
the days of,
commands. So you could run a leads,
yeah.
right,
So
and then
you,
give him +1 attack and then -1 rend, and then and also have the reroll saves up. But now you got to pick, so it's a little bit,
yeah,
yeah, it's a little bit rough.
yeah, and you're not running them in as units that are as big. anymore, and you can't string them out and control loads of board space like you used to. Well, you can kind of because they're still on 25 mil bases, but not to the same extent. Um, but I like this list, and Ray's a great player. Um, and it's just good to see OC Bone Reapers still here, basically. And it'll be interesting to see what some of the OBR players make of those new rules that you got in the White Dwarf. So, um, yeah, I'm glad that they're here, Stuart. Makes me happy. Another army that I'm really glad to see at the tournament is Nighthaunt, Stuart, and I think it's again 3 players playing Nighthaunt. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, good old Nighthaunt. An army that I always think is underrated as an army. I think it's obviously got its weaknesses, but I think it's an army that, with some decent dice rolling behind it, can punch above its weight.
Yeah. Now the list that's performing the best is Matt Durrell's
The list that shouldn't, yeah.
Nagash list, which I know he doesn't like either. So I think that kind of tells you where we're at with it. But I mean, it's basically Nagash and then a load of bodies that regenerate. Um, but the problem is
So,
if Nagash dies, then he definitely loses. So that's kind of the
well,
difficulty.
the funny thing is that whenever I've watched Matt play this list in this tournament, it's not Nagash that catches my attention. It's those 2 units of Train Rasps, with some buffs on, and if they get a double pile in, they've suddenly removed a unit and they're 30 bodies on an objective, and it looks like that they can just win the objective grind really well. And then the opponent swings back and he rolls his 5 up armor saves and he makes a decent amount of them and he got his 6 up ward and everything like that. And he only lost like 8, and then some of them come back and you think this is not a bad unit. Um, is there, I like chain rasps. Why don't we see them doing better?
Well, they don't do any damage. that's, I mean, that's
Well,
it. That's it.
I've seen him do a little bit of damage with them, like more than
Uh,
more than my dryads ever will, and more
oh,
than my
okay, yeah. Like they'll
anything
do
like that. When you're
the
talking
thing is
about
with Nighthaunt,
units that are like chain rasps,
the
those sort of units.
well, the problem with Nighthaunt, right, is that like all their hammer units are Rend 1, or they only do mortals. So you have Git syndrome. Like Git's has exactly the same problem. It's like everything that's supposed to be a hammer is Rend 1, so it's no longer a hammer in AOS 3, or it only does mortals, which means that it will just lose to other chaff. So that's basically the problem they have. So I think the solution that people have come up with is you just run a load of garbage, um, and kind of clog up the
Like
board.
similar to like Nikita is with the Soul Blight.
Yeah, but I think Soul Blight's probably just a better version of a similar thing. So I mean, they're not. It's not a bad
Well, because
army by any means, but yeah,
Chain Rasp of all the death armies is kind of less focused on the survivability and the bringing stuff back, and it still does a little bit of it, but not to the same extent. It's more, in its design, it's supposed to be that hammer. You roll your 10, you double pile in with your Blade Gas Revenants, and you take something off. But you've rend 1, so you're not doing that anymore in AOS 3, and that's kind of where
no.
they're stuck.
Now what happens
Um,
is you go into something with a 2-up save and do like nothing and then die. That's what happens. Now it takes a bit for you to die because
but
you're ethereal, but you still die. That's the problem.
yeah, but you laugh at that, but I do actually think it's a bit of a problem because I think there's loads of armies and lists that are in a similar boat where Rend 1 has just kind of, it's a sad place to be. You've played your Iron Guts, um, Colonel Hunters with swords, they just, it's
Boingrot
that all out
bounders.
defense. Yeah, it's just that all out defense. It's really limited the type of unit you need to be effective, right? And I don't like that, Stuart. I want to see more Blade Geist Revenants and Iron Guts and things like that killing things rather than bouncing. So, boo. That's a boo from me.
Boo.
Um, Now we've got a surprise next, don't we? Something that's probably tipped as one of the better armies with a newer book, and it's a sub 40% win rate in this tournament, Stuart. What have we got?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that Iron Jaws is not performing the absolute best. Yeah,
Because there's a few lists out there, right? They're
yeah.
not
There's I think there's five of
unrepresented.
them. Yeah, but the
Yeah,
best one is two and two. And I think his list is pretty typical of what you see in real life. Which is
definitely.
just two
Two
more
mega
crushes and a bunch of
bosses
pigs.
and some pigs.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now 170. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so again, straightforward list. It's leaning on the power of the War Scrolls rather than anything super fancy. The fancy stuff is on all of the movement shenanigans that you get out of the Mega Boss and the command abilities. Um, he's got all the War Chanters to do all of the buffs, and he's got some of the Bloodtooth tricks as well. So it's a good mix of high movement and high damage, and not terrible survivability as well, but it doesn't have a lot of bodies, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. And I also think the amulet nerf is pretty brutal. Like, I mean, I was playing Big Wild like a lot before the amulet nerf, and like Luke will tell you that like that amulet Maw Crusher was like impossible to kill. Like that thing was gross for its points, but without the amulet, I mean, 500 points for 18 wounds at a 3-up save is pretty expensive, isn't it? Like,
Without the amulet, they just become a fast, high damage piece, which is still a threat and can still win games, but it's not a fast, high damage, unkillable piece anymore.
yeah, it
And
doesn't do
it's
absolutely
really,
everything for 500 points anymore. It used to do
yeah,
everything like perfectly.
it
So
used to do the whole army's job, yeah. Um, and it's weird how much that a one artifact in a 5-up ward doesn't even sound that game breaking, but on those sort of pieces, it just everything suddenly clicks, doesn't it? When a war squad gets given a 5-up ward, and you know, everyone's always saying that, everyone was always saying Kragnos needed a ward, Alariel needs a ward. A ward really brings a war scroll together, and now that they only have access to a 6-up, it's made a way bigger difference than you would have thought, right?
yeah,
Is that why they're losing these games though, Stuart? Is it can you peg this 40% win rate on Amulet of Destiny, or is there something else going on?
I mean, I think they were never good against Seraphon. I mean, even before the nerf, because of the -1 damage. I mean, that's just like you
Yep.
just may as well. It was like your War Chanter's just standing there, like, oh, time to go home, I guess. Like, it doesn't do
I've, I've
anything.
I've
Yeah,
just got drumsticks and they don't do anything. Yeah.
yeah. Like I know you can buff up the War Crushes, and it makes a difference on them. But I mean, Gore Grunters being damage one is a bit sad. Yeah, I think the points nerf sucks. Uh, on the Gore Grunters. And I just don't know if there's really any other options. Like Brute's just too expensive, and the whole not counting models thing on the objective just doesn't really work because they got its models within 3, and if your opponent plays around it well, like you're still not getting the objective. And then Ard Boys and Iron Jaws are not that great because 4s and 3s is awful. They're pretty good in Big War actually, but yeah, in
Very
Iron
good in Big
Jaws,
War. But
in Iron
yes,
Jaws not so much.
Nine Jaws.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it, and
And
I
there's not a
also
lot else
think
in the book other than those units, right? They're an army that
no,
relies really heavily on that mega boss and then the battle line. And you've just identified the problems with the 3 battle line at the moment.
yeah. Now it's my opinion that the second Maw Crusher should probably be a Rogue Idol because he does have a 5-up after save,
Mm.
and I know
He
people
can
have
become
started
that
going towards that a little
that
bit.
tanky piece. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but he is
Because
expensive.
what you want out of monsters is you want distraction, you want damage, and you want survivability. And Iron Jaws are one of the few armies where you can get all 3 of those things out of 2 monsters. You used to be get it out of 1 with the amulet, which is why it was really, really strong. But now you can, yeah, with that Rogue Idol doing the defensive and the distraction side of things, and then the Mega Boss. The Mega Boss still does mega damage. That thing's obscene, right? The amount of damage that that thing can put out, and it's fast and it's going to get there. So those two in tandem can still work really well. And I wonder if we started seeing that more, whether that would significantly improve the win rate. Um, but
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm somewhat surprised that Iron Jaws aren't doing as well because I still think they're one of the new books and they're still one of the better armies out there at the moment. But clearly I'm wrong, Stuart. Have you got any ideas as to anything about this particular tournament that they might be? Is it the Dragons? Is it the Seraphon?
I mean, I don't think they're good against either of those. So I mean, it makes sense,
Is
but
that
yeah, I also just think like I just want people to run some more balanced lists because this is really like an alpha strike list. Because it can't handle getting alpha struck on its own. So like you've got to do the alpha striking, or it's a bit rip. But I just
once it
yeah,
moves forward, it doesn't have anything to protect the backfield objectives or
no.
anything like that. You know, a teleport just laughs, doesn't it? My unit of 5 Tree Revenants is gonna win me some points against this list. Everything else will be dead, but those Tree Revenants
I
will
mean, I think against Sylvaneth
get
they're
some
going to take
points.
you off in one turn, but
Yeah, I know. Bad example. But
yeah,
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 good. You know, in one of our more interesting and surprising results that we've had so far, isn't it?
yep. Um,
Bone Splitter's similar sort of thing, you know, and I think they have the similar sort of outcome just with the Bone Splitter sort of stuff, right?
yeah. I know. Orkman just played his game as well, and I'll just get his
He
list up
just
quickly.
lost. He just
Yeah,
lost to Hippie Chef. He'll be very
it's one of those armies that
Hippie will
just
be
has
pleased
it
to
has
announce.
some it has some strangely good and bad matchups. It's like I always remember back in AOS 2, whenever I played against Bone Splitters with Yetis, I was just rubbing my hands because it's like, and I know that this just happened in the game we just played, but the unit of 30 getting tagged is just like, oh man, it's just brutal.
Yeah.
Like if this unit of 30 doesn't get to where it needs to be, it's just brutal. Especially with how many points it is now. But I mean, props to Orkman for uh taking a Bone Splitters list that's not including Kragnos because I do feel like it's kind of cheating a little bit. It's definitely a crutch, but yeah, I mean he's Icebone and he's got a load of boy maniacs and a big block of 30 Savage Oryx. That's
Well,
the essential part of the list.
I think the one and the most unique thing about Bone Splitters, the one thing about Bone Splitters, and it's the thing that our man Will has really lent into, is that Wargog Prophet. You know, um, lasers. That's a new way to play Bone Splitters, and it's kind of weird because it's really good,
It's
but
really
also
good.
bad.
It's really good. Yeah, he's really good. It's a really good war scroll, the Wargog Prophet, in like many respects. Got a really good spell, double caster. If you give him the glowing tattoos, like not only does it make you do more damage with the mask, but now you got a 4-up ward, so he's really hard to kill. Um, and yeah, you can always
I mean,
heal him
he's
with
tanky.
Wardocs and stuff, so he's
Yeah,
tanky. Yeah,
I mean, he's a great 150 point hero, isn't he? He really is.
yeah, 100%.
He is what the Wardock used to be, right? Just twice the price,
Yep.
which is correct because the Wardock was ridiculously priced for what he did. But Wargog's the new prophet, and you know, Bone Splitters we've seen spam that hero war scroll, and I know Orkman's taken a more balanced approach with this list, but Will, the other Bone Splitters player, has really lent into the Wargogs. I think he's got 5 of them,
I
and
think I think the I personally think it's only worth taking with the glowing tattoos personally, like because you got to think about it as like he survives for longer, but also he does more damage because with his mask, like a lot more damage. It's not like an insignificant amount. So yeah, I think in terms of points, you
double.
better just take bodies. Um, yeah,
I don't know, man. Watching 45 mortal wounds be vomited out
but
into
then that's all
some
you
dragons
got.
is pretty.
then you're
Yeah,
dead. Like your army just died. You just
yeah.
lost like 700 points. It's yeah, it's interesting. Hmm.
But yeah, not doing as well. You know, Orkman really needs to pull his finger out. Really, come on.
he's
Only
definitely won some
joking.
games that he shouldn't though. He's done very well so far. Okay.
But that's classic Orkman. That is right. So
We got to talk
Fire
about
Slayers, there's
KO.
one player.
Should we talk about
Fire Slayers,
KO?
there's one player.
I think did he
Okay,
drop?
KO.
Uh,
Who,
yeah.
Fire Slayers? No, he's still in.
Is he still in? Oh, my
Yeah,
apologies.
Mitch 126. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the other one
Um,
did.
he's at the perfect middle. He's 2-1-2. He's 1-2. He's lost two and he's drawn one. Perfect middle, and that kind of summarizes this list. You know, it's got loads of Hearthguard and Gotrek, so good output, good survivability, not a lot of anything else. You know, it's a skew list where, you know, it struggles with the movement, it's relying on the hero, so if you can shoot those heroes, it's a bit, feels bad. It's got the Hearthguard for the bodyguard, but it's still not always enough against certain amounts of shooting. Um, Again, Fire Slayer is one of those armies that just kind of got really indirectly nerfed by AOS 3. You know, coherency rules really changes the way that you have to play your Hearthguard, only being able to use one command ability. They got rid of all the save stacking that was available to the army. Um, not
Yeah,
being able to spam command abilities, so you can't get pluses to charge, like stacking the pluses to charge, which is what I used to lean into AOS 2. Um, the list goes on with Fire Slayers, and I think this is kind of all they're going to be at the moment until the new book comes out, and that's going to be Hearthguard Berserkers can put out some damage if they roll the sixes, and they can take a lot of damage with the 4-up ward. Gotrek does basically the same thing, but slightly better. Um,
well, have you seen the new War Scrolls
and
though? They're not doing anything, mate, until the new book comes out. Like, jeez,
uh,
it's not good. Yeah.
no, I guess so. But yeah, what I mean is what Mitch is playing at the moment. He's got one more game to play with it. I hope he gets the win because, you know, dwarfs are close to my heart. But there's just not a lot to say about them. There's not a lot to get excited about at the moment, and it's a real shame. But they're tanky, and in a match where two lines of infantry are walking forward and meeting in the middle, the fire slayer player can feel pretty confident in that sort of situation. But anything with fast moving hammer or a teleport or some shooting to a bit of utility, some spells, the army starts to fall apart. And I think that's probably going to be his 50-50 wins and losses. Some armies try and do the same thing as him, and he does it better. And then anything else that tries to play a bit more sneakily, a bit more clever, tends to beat him to it. Um, we can move on to one of those shooting armies, can't we, Stuart? Because you wanted to talk about Luke in his KO.
Oh God. Okay, here we go. Gonna talk about Luke Mortensen. All right, he is 4-1. Now I don't know if he's necessarily had the hardest run, which he would admit. Um, but yeah, he basically wanted to try out the Sky Wardens with the drill launch just to see how they go. But I know, having talked to him, he thinks that Double Clad is the better build, which I agree with. Both an Alpha Beast pack, because you can just.
So, for those of you that are confused at this, this is drill launchers, which one in three of them can have a gun called a drill launcher. It does flat 3 or D3 mortal wounds on a roll of a 6. He then also has a navigator with a pistol, which means once per turn, or once per game, sorry, for a turn, you can reroll all hits, and your whole army fishes for sixes against the target unit. So it's an army. It's a very fast army. It's a very fragile army, and it can do all of its damage way out of range. You know, I think it's got like 24-inch or maybe even 36-inch range on those drill launchers. Um, so he can outrange you and then pick off what it needs to pick off, and then start playing the game in turns 3, 4, and 5 in terms of picking up the points and stuff like that. And I think some of Luke's games have been what decided on big
Oh,
doubles and stuff like that.
yeah, like I think the run so far has been a bit unfortunate for all involved. Like round one, he played Dragons, which I think is, that's, I think he said that's like a 50-50, which I agree with. And then in round two, he played Cruel Boys, which he just wins.
Shoots
And
off
then
the
in
bolt boys.
and
Yeah,
then in round three, he played Foxes, which he just
shoots
wins.
off the foxes. Yeah,
And then in round four, he played Tavi, which he lost, so he did lose that one, against the
which he
Croxigors
should
and
do,
stuff.
I
And I
think.
don't think
Yeah,
I don't think that was particularly close either. And then in round five, he played OBR, which I think he rolled well as well. To be fair, like if he doesn't roll well on turn one, I think it might have been a bit different. But um,
whole army is if you don't roll well, you suck, and if you roll above average, then you get a lot out of that because if you roll those sixes, that it translate into a lot of real world change of the game state. You know, D3 mortal wounds on a six is big.
Yep. Yep. Okay. And then maybe we won't talk about a specific list, but Lumineth, yeah, looking a bit lower. We were talking about it before the
So
show, but there is a lack of
yeah,
tech lists in the current event. A lot of them have been foxes and that kind of thing, and I think Drakon, the foxes player, has had a bit of an unfortunate draw. To be fair, like you don't want to play
Luke
against,
being one of them. Yeah,
yeah, you don't want to play against a bunch of other shooting armies when you're playing foxes. Like it's kind of what you
but
want to
I
avoid.
was surprised by Lumineth at a whole. I know that the list that we had at this particular event were kind of weird. You know, there wasn't a lot of super typical Lumineth lists. There certainly wasn't a lot of like the ultra optimized Lumineth lists that, you know, you said there was no tech lists. I think there was one list that was pretty solid, which was the 30 Sentinels and 3 Foxes, which I think was Drakon, right? I think that
Yeah,
was him.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and he's had a bit of an unfortunate run. Otherwise, I think he would be on a 3-2 or 4-2 or something like that by now. But um, you said that they're a bin army, and I said I thought they're still good. So what's the argument for either side there? I think that Sentinels got nerfed. Unleash Hell was bad, but I still think Techless has got a lot of play, and a lot of play that you can't do anything about either. It's MPE, it's just auto stuff. And Foxes again, you can't do a lot. If you can't deal with it, you can't deal with it, and you lose the game. So I think they're a very polarized on and off army. Um, but I think that I'm surprised that they've got a sub 30% win rate. If I'm being honest, why do you think they're winning, not winning games?
I just think they need a new book, you know. No, but I actually think they
Uh,
do. I actually think they do as a thing. So like, oh
well,
god,
of course they do, but they shouldn't, should they? They
I've
shouldn't need a new book.
yeah, but I think from day one, it's a bit of a strange design battle tome in that the only damage they do is mortal wounds. Like
Hmm.
it's so Cruel Boys has a similar problem, right? Like as soon as you make
Yeah,
something only do mortal wounds, like balancing it is just so impossible because like how much mortal wounds are worth totally depends on the state of wound count in the rest of the game. Um,
well, yeah, like some armies like Sylvaneth just cannot deal with mortal wounds. We don't have a shrug in the book. With low model count, with low wound count, it ruins our days. You know, where if you're playing into Nikita's
yeah,
Soulblight with
well,
a six
exactly
up
right.
ward against everything and 200 wounds, you know,
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
the amount of mortal wounds you would need to do is just obscene because you haven't got any other form of damage. So, yeah, I agree.
And another thing to think about with the Luminous Realm Lords is like we haven't got the new Nurgle in this tournament, but that matchup is like unplayable for Lumineth. I've been playing
5 up
Nurgle at
ward,
club.
just a 5.
I've been
Yeah.
playing Nurgle at club with and my mate plays Lumineth, and like we just worked out we just can't even play the game. It's like he just can't. Nothing happens. Like the Sentinels will shoot and kill like one beast of Nurgle. It's just like there's just nothing you can do because if all of your damage is based on mortal wounds and your opponent has like a bunch of shrugs, it's just so hard to get through anything. But I think the real problem with Lumineth, Luke, is that the depth of the book is really quite low. Like beyond Sentinels, like you look at Wardens, and for 145 points, like that's a lot of points for them. Like
There's loads of tricks. There's loads of tricks in that book. The toolbox is huge. It's just, is it the war scrolls that you think that are lacking in depth? Because there's loads of different things you can do. There's pre-game moves. There's teleports. There's turning off command points, making them cost 2 CP. There's bravery shenanigans. There's loads of tools to use, and I'm surprised that you called it a shallow book.
well, it's just like there's just like a lot of shit covering like a problem, which is that like all of your stuff only does mortal wounds, but there are times where you just need to kill crap, And the one thing that does kill crap, which is the
On
the
riders.
Dawn Riders, like they'll lose to Dragon Ogres reliably, stuff like that. Like that's just what I've found playing against them. I think the biggest nerf for them is just the Unleash Hell change. Like if we're honest, like big units of 30 Archer blocks, now only being able to fire just within 6 makes them a lot easier to tag and
No
play
one's
around.
sad about that, are they?
No, no
No
one's
one's
sad
sad
about
about.
that. No one's sad
You
about
know,
that.
there's this there's this big block of 30 archers I need to take off, so I'm going to charge my unit into it. Oh no, it's dead. Now I can't take them off. That was kind of shit. But yeah, I know we haven't touched on every single one. There's Sunesh, which is Anthony. He's always doing his things, and I've got him next. I'm super super excited for that game. It's going to be an absolute. It's going to be a shit show, if I'm being honest with you, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
Um, we've got Corn, which is one of the last probably things we should talk about in terms of maybe a bit of a surprise because they were looking good after the first round, and then they haven't
Yeah.
moved an inch forward since then,
No.
have they?
Because we were so happy because they were undefeated round one. Like I think they had a draw, but they hadn't lost. And then I don't think they've
Yeah,
got a win since, which is a bit
no,
sad
they
for the
haven't.
Corn. Yeah.
So is this purely that Corn are terrible and that we gave them the best chance at life they possibly could have done with our general rating system, and then you know we nurtured them through childhood, we protected them, and then we unleashed them into the real world, and then suddenly taxes are a thing, and you don't know how to do this, and jobs suck, and is is, is that me? Is that what
Yeah,
Corner's just
Corn
gone
just
through?
can't hold down the 9 to 5. That's the vibe. No, like Asuris just said in the chat, like shooting hurts, man. That's pretty much the reason why like Corn just suck against shooting. Like, it's
Yeah,
they're like pretty decent against combat armies. Like if you tee up ogres versus Corn, that's gonna be a good game. But
yeah. They've got
ogres,
screens and they've got Scarbrand behind it that's gonna ruin your day, and you can't get to the stuff that matters.
yeah,
It suddenly looks not so bad, especially when you think, I can double pile in, I can 6-inch pile in, I've got all these tricks and all these tools, but it's just shooting, right?
yeah.
Just
Like
makes
it's
them
actually like it's like
completely
they've
unplayable.
written the book like assuming the shooting phase doesn't exist because there's like no anti-shooting tech. There's all this anti-magic tech and all this like combat phase and movement phase shenanigans. But it's like there's just nothing to do with shooting. Like you can't really shoot. Yeah, and your opponent like Scarbrand 14 wounds with a 4-up save. If your opponent has a shooting unit that does any damage, he's dead. Like that's just the way it works. Unfortunately, it's a bit sad. Yeah,
I do think though, and it's a shame that this tournament hasn't been able to show it, but I do think that in those matchups that against armies that aren't shooting heavy, they suddenly look infinitely better. The,
yeah,
the
yeah.
toolbox is so deep, and although the war scrolls aren't great, they have every type of unit that you need. They have hammers, they have maybe not anvils, but they have screens. They have good, decent support heroes. They've got loads of utility, like the Hex Scorcher Skulls are great in some matchups. They're super anti-magic. I tried playing Sylvaneth into Azura's Corn. I was like, I can't play this. And if you rely on that key spell, you can't use your win condition there. Um, and it's just a shame that one phase of the game has created a 20% win rate when otherwise they've got quite a lot to offer, I think.
Yeah, but they just released at a time where shooting wasn't really a thing. That's fundamentally why. Like, it just wasn't
So
really a
they
thing
used
when
to
it
be a
came
really
out.
good army, right? Like Corn was winning tournaments back when shooting wasn't a thing. Am I right?
Yeah, I think there were a
Way
couple
back
people
when.
winning with Tyrants of Blood, and it was always a
Yeah.
list in second that was good. Um, yeah, it's just as shooting became more of a thing. Like right around with like the KO. Oh god, I mean that was just when everything went wrong when the KO and Zinch book came out. Like it's just pretty much just like, oh man, here we go again.
Yeah.
The shooting meta's coming back, and yeah, in terms of shooting, it's been a bit downhill since. But I mean, we've got to remember before that as well. This is a brief history thing. It's like there was also like Slanesh and Flesh Eater cores back then as well. So I mean, it
And Skaven.
hasn't been
It's
golden
about
forever,
Skaven.
has it? But yeah,
It hasn't been golden once because GW, man. Right, so we just got to the bottom, but I've just remembered we whizzed past those top ones that had one players in. So
Oh,
if we've done it for Slanesh and everyone else, we need to talk about Little Tank and his feck, and we need to talk about Big War and AZ, right?
okay. All right. Can I talk about Big War? Because this list is tremendous.
Yes.
This list is tremendous. Yeah. Now I'm a big fan. I almost ran like a very similar thing to this. The only difference is I had another Maw Crusher instead of Gobsprak, so it was literally going to be Gordrak, Kragnos, and a Maw Crusher, and then 3 units of
Yeah,
5 hard boys.
I remember putting my face in my palm when you sent me that list.
It's tremendous.
But I'm glad that AZ has done something similar.
Yeah. Now I really like this list. I think this is a great list. Like it's kind of pretty similar to my Gits list.
Which, yeah,
So basically, you've got Kragnos, which is your big hammer, and Gordrak is also like an auxiliary hammer here. But the main reason he's here is for the issue 3 commands to any destruction units thing. So you can give +1 save to Gordrak, Kragnos, and like Gobsprak if you need to, or you can redeploy all of them, which is great. Yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do here. Now, Gobsprak is not very good, but he's better in Big War because at least he can get +1 to cast and unbind. Um,
X is a spell, right? It does some stuff
and yeah, he's
sometimes.
got he's got the classic War Chanter because he's got 2 other generals here, so you can run the classic all your trimmings War Chanter, which is like I can do a beat and I can give someone +1 damage, and now I can do a spell, and then I can reroll the cast. Like, it's yeah, I know Rune Lord could do a similar thing, but he's got that set up, and he's got the teleport there, and he's got the same thing that my list has, which he's got he can do the teleport and then cast bridge, so he can like teleport Gobsprak up and then bridge backwards and bring Kragnos forward, and then Mighty Destroyers Gordrak forward, and then you just got these 2 boys just coming into you. Um, yeah, but you don't even have to play it like
Better.
that either, because
It,
you're big
it,
war. Like you can play super slow, and only go when you need to, like when you got
you
all
can
your
play
war
like a
points up.
counter punch, can't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I love it. It's great.
It's almost like hard boys are better than spiders.
They definitely are. Now his road so far is he played in round 1 he played OBR, then he drew to Sylvaneth. We talked about that before. Then he played Trogs and he won that, and then he played Stormcast, yeah, in round 4 and won that one. So now he's on to playing.
Tremendous victory.
I think he's got Philip Carter this round, so he's certainly is
Up
hitting
against
the
it.
yeah, he's up against it.
Yeah.
But if he plays it right and
There
Kragnos
is a
doesn't
path
get
to
Omega
victory
Rex
there.
by Fulminators, which she
Yeah.
probably will. But if he doesn't,
It,
then
it's not Vanguard Raptors that he's facing. It, there's a lot of ifs and there's a lot of buts, but there is a path to victory against Philip Bliss, which sounds really weird, but I hope he pulls it off because that would be great.
yep,
And the last champion that we've got representing their entire faction on their back is Little Tank and his Feck. And I had a good chat with Little Tank this morning. I woke up today and I saw Little Tank finishing his tournament game against some nasty Stormcast list, and it was a very unfortunate game where whoever got the double turn won and Little Tank didn't get the double, so he lost today. But he's playing Feck, and they're a bit of a casino army at the moment, aren't they?
yeah. I think he's up against it. Like I know it's a good army, but traditionally it's always been bad against shooting, and I also think it's not that great at clearing loads of garbage either. Which he played. He unfortunately drew Nakia in round 4, which I think was a bit of a stinger of a draw. And he lost that one unfortunately. So yeah, but he did beat. I think he played Gits and then Soul Blight and then I think Living Cities round 3. As he won those first 3 and then went down to Soul Blight in round 4 and Stormcast in round 5. Yeah,
Let's not beat around the bush here. This is two Terrorgeists, it's buff pieces, and it's screens, and then Manfred's here for the lols as well, right?
yeah. Manfred's great. Just
It's
annoying.
it's all on the Terrorgeists, and but that being said, Feck does have screens, not good ones, but it has screens, which is what you need if you're running Terrorgeists, And the key part to this list is all of the spells that he's got from the Ghoul Kings and the Arc Regents and stuff like that. Um, the casino is as well as it's in the sixes on the more, it's mostly in the spells because a +4 attacks Terrorgeist is a very different thing to a no attacks extra attacks Terrorgeist, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of where it is. I mean,
It's like
when you
multiple
get
layers of casino with Feck. It's like there's so many layers of casino that you can't even believe it. Not only is it in terms of the spells, like whether you get the spells off or not, then it's do you roll a 3 on the D3 on the attacks, and then in
or one,
combat
yeah,
in combat do you get roared, and then do you actually roll any sixes with the more? Like this, and then
yeah,
and then do you win the priority is like the most important thing with this army, and it always is with Feck. Now, I played I don't know if you remember the Thunder Tome tournament, which I ended up winning, where I was playing Crypt Horrors. And like I just remember when I was playing that army, it was like the swingiest thing ever. It's like if I got the priority, my unit that had like 2 guys left would be back to 9, and then I would like travel 20 inches across the board and double pile into some unit and kill the whole thing. But if I didn't win the priority, then I would lose the unit of 2, and then he would kill the rest of my army in the same turn. So it's just like it's like just more impactful against Feck to win the priority than any other army. Partially because of the revival mechanics, which in this army I guess is not relevant, but also in terms of
so
just how squishy everything is. Yeah.
I think this whole big impact that the double has and the who goes first and all of that is basically because I know Feck aren't a meta choice at the moment, but the meta is a similar sort of playstyle to this, which is super high output and super fast. Right? High threat range, super high output. Those two things combined, in AOS 3 at the moment, make it really black or white. It's whoever gets the choice of engagement, whoever gets the opportunity to have their turn first or at the right moment. Because getting through the screens on the double and then getting into the stuff behind it with a unit like a Terrorgeist or a unit like Dragons or Fulminators, it's going to win you the game. It's not hard to see that. It's a pretty obvious route to victory, right? You're not trying to play points. You're not trying to score battle tactics. You're simply just trying to crack that nut, get through that screen, and get to the stuff behind it. And I don't know how I feel about that as a play style. I think it's can be good, but it's a bit reliant on dice, and it doesn't feel like you're necessarily playing the game in the same sort of way that other armies can. It's pretty Timmy, isn't it?
I think on that note, with the whole like both of our armies just do a million damage but also die, like we are all kind of actively consenting into that a little bit. Um, like if we
Yeah,
all brought
definitely.
lists that we'd like one big threat and then a load of screens, it'd be a very different metagame. Um, but yeah, with lists like this Flesh Eater Courts and the Dragon, so it's definitely going to become like let's line up and roll priority to see who wins. Unfortunately, yeah. Okay.
So what we've just done, in case you weren't here, is we've gone through all of the all of the win rates of all the factions so far. We're up to round 5. Some people have played 5 games, some people have played 4 games, and so that means we've still got a lot more games left to play. We've got a whole round in itself and the rest of this round. Um, how has your tournament gone so far, Stuart? Have you had your round 5 yet?
No, I have it later today Australian time, so I'm going to be playing Daughters of Cain with Kragnos, which I don't think that's
So you're
going to
gonna
go very
lose.
well. I don't think
Yeah.
we're going to have to pull something out of the bag because it's not a good matchup, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, I've been enjoying playing Kragnos. I bought him in real life the other day, so I've been slowly working at painting him up amongst painting my actual World's army in Nurgle. But um, yeah, it's been an interesting tournament so far. I think we've seen Seraphon maybe not perform as well as we expected. Maybe some of the nerfs that I thought weren't that significant were a bit more significant than I thought. And we've
Okay.
seen
Heat Seraphon as hard as I wanted them to.
and yeah, we've seen We've seen Stormcast do well. Legion of the First Prince, like,
Yeah,
quietly performing well. And then, yeah, and then some of the usual factions towards the bottom, I think you'd expect. Yeah, I think so far it's pretty much what you'd expect with like a couple outliers. Yeah.
nice surprises. A couple, a couple of nice surprises I can think of is Nikita and is I think playing this heavy wound, lots of chaff play styles. Really, not a lot of people are doing that. Um, I think Soulblight Gravelords are one of the few armies that can do it as well. So I think Nikita's one of them. The lad, what's his Soulbind with his ogres, he's
Yeah.
fucking threatening
Champion.
and doing some bits.
Yeah.
Um, Cruel Boys, the three guys playing Cruel Boys, showing what that army's all about. Because some people, it's very divisive with that army, isn't it? Some people say they're crap. Some people say that they're really strong. And at the moment, they're proving that they're a decent army. Definitely not bad. And then you got Corn showing everyone that shooting's rubbish. So
Yep.
it's really enjoyable tournament. I've been losing and having a great time. So I can't wait to play some more games with my terrible list.
And just some housekeeping. So we are going to do a team tournament at the start of March, which is sort of aimed to be like a practice for Worlds. You can obviously play even if you're not playing in Worlds, and you don't have to all be from the same country. But the pack hasn't been out yet, but it will be coming out later this week. I'll probably get it done by Friday, so expect that later this week, and we'll get the sign up sorted, and that should be all moving along soon.
This is a competitively minded tournament, but this is a ultra competitive minded teams tournament format that we've got in mind, and it's basically going to be pretty much the exact same format as Worlds, except for just a couple of tweaks to make it suitable for TTS. Um, and Worlds, for those of you that don't know, is a big annual tournament, kind of like the World Cup of football that it is in Warhammer, where teams send forward a team of 8 representatives for their country, and it is the hardest list, the best tournament players in the country with the best results on the rankings and stuff like that, playing armies that are designed to gatekeep, armies that are designed to be able to play into certain matchups or beat the meta army and stuff at the moment. And we're hoping that level of ultra competitive tacticalness is going to come to us on TTS, and we're looking forward to that, aren't we?
Yep, but I also would encourage people to just bring some memes. You know,
Yeah,
now you obviously
100%.
can't bring the same war scroll more than once, really. But like, if you want to do something like the Destro Bros, and bring like, I mean, there aren't 8 destruction armies, but you can do like 4, and then we actually it's a 6-player tournament, so
Our
uh,
one's going to be 6, yeah.
yeah, the Worlds are 8. We're gonna do 6, but yeah, I don't know. Think of some. You can think of some creative, like themed, um, some themed teams because I mean, from my perspective, like as much as I
Listen to that.
understand when everyone's going to run the same 6 armies, like I'd prefer if people didn't. like I want to see like some cool stuff coming out. Maybe there's like a 4 more tech crawler list that someone wants to take, just like for a specific matchup. I have no idea, but you know, find the tech. I think is the advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage people to check out. I think Sam Morgan did a video a month or two ago about Warhammer Nuzlocke, in that running lists that have a certain number of rules on them, so that they're not going to be super optimized, but give you the challenge to play something that someone else isn't playing, or list types that people aren't playing, and try and do well with those. So I think he has stuff like no duplicates of the same of 2 or more war scrolls, no battle regiment, don't use the stupid arcane tome master of magic combo because it's dumb, all that sort of stuff. So check that out, and then make a team, run crap lists, and prove everyone wrong, because that's what we want. That's what we want you to do.
I
So
want to see a Nurgle list
um,
that's running at least 4 warlords. That's what I want to see. That's the meme. If you don't know how to do that, then message me and I'll tell you how because it's great. But you can run like you could actually run. I think you can run five. You can run like five warlords with Nurgle with the right build, or like maybe like command entourage. Yeah, but it's I don't know
That's
why
good.
you do it, but you
That
can.
sounds that, that sounds silly. Right. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Again, apologies that we weren't able to do our weekly format that we promised to you. Um, Real life gets in the way sometimes, but we're trying out new formats for our shows. You know, we did a couple of key matchups last time, and this time we went through all the win rates of the factions. Let us know what you think format you'd like to see, whether you want us to go through lists, whether you want us to do hot takes about the meta, or somewhere in between. And good luck to everyone else that's still got some games yet to play. We've still got 1.5 rounds. Keep putting your messages in the Discord. Keep telling us about your games and the game summaries. And good luck. Is there anything that you want to say to the people, Stuart?
No, we're good.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll get you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.